CNBC-TV18 and BMR present Pre-Budget Poll.
Welcome back. You're watching the CNBC-TV18-BMR pre-budget poll, and we're discussing the findings of the poll that we've conducted. Bobby, let's talk about measures to boost investor sentiment. GAR and retrospective tax. Specifically on GAR, we had asked whether respondents believe that the government will defer GAR even further, and almost 77% believe that yes, there will be a further deferral. The question now is, will it be by 2 years? Will it be longer? Will it be a timeline that the government will stick to at all as far as the GAR deferral is concerned?
I think my own sense is, or my own view would be that I think that they should defer, and they will defer. Unclear as to whether they sort of put a period to it, or whether they put a formula to it, as there was some speculations a little while ago that they might sort of link it to some economic indicator or something like that, although I don't see the logic of that. So I'm hoping that actually what I'd like to see is that they defer it and then they don't put a date to it.
So an indefinite deferral is what you're hoping for?
But you'd still want some indication that it's not going to happen. So if you do it indefinite but you don't give a sense, then every budget will be an issue.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Gokul, what do you expect as far as GAR is concerned?
One of the ticklish issues has been the Mauritius tax treaty. And there's been a fair bit of joint working committee activities over the last couple of years between India and Mauritius to try and look at what to do with the safeguards in the tax treaty. Now, if they're able to, in the next 12 months, 24 months, resolve as to how they want to put in the limitation of benefit test in the Mauritius treaty, then that takes away a lot of the uncertainty that GAR brings to the discussion. So maybe we'll see some sort of an alignment between the resolution of the Mauritius tax treaty and the discussion there too, and when GAR should thereafter be coming in. Because one of the troubles with GAR is that it has a treaty override concern. And the main treaty override which people are concerned with is the Mauritius treaty.
So you think it's at least a 2-year deferral for GAR?
Absolutely.
Any specific clarifications on retrospective taxation, because that's the other question that we've asked, and again a majority seem to believe, almost 70% believes, that there will be further clarification on retrospective taxation. Bobby, do you believe that we could see something more beyond a mere reiteration that we don't believe in the era of retrospective taxes?
I think it should happen. I don't know why it didn't happen in the last budget. So the sort of bigger political call is whether to sort of remove retrospectivity or not. But the indirect transfer aspect of it, even if you want to sort of maintain it prospectively, needs guidance. And there is no guidance available under the law right now. It exists in the statute. There are transactions which are happening all the time, and it's a big struggle to figure out how to deal with them. So it's a big cause of friction and causes enormous pain, and so it's obligatory that there should be more guidance that should be available. There is lots of work which has been done on it. So there's not a lot of independent thinking which has to remains to be done. So we should adopt the recommendations that are contained in the Shom Committee report.
Speaking of recommendations and taking forward DTC, do you believe the DTC is going to move anywhere closer to reality? The poll doesn't seem to suggest. Merely 31% believe that it's likely that the DTC will be legislated, Gokul.
Well, I think the DTC, as per the pollsters, is gone and buried. But I think the important thing is many of the provisions from the DTC already have got embedded into the Income Tax Act. One aspect, which is a few aspects which have been left out, include the clarity that's needed for the prospective taxation of indirect transfers. And I think if those aspects can be addressed either through circular or by incorporation in the existing law, then I don't think, from a policy perspective, DTC brings anything new to the table.
Okay, all right. We're talking about manufacturing and the manufacturing advantage. Rajiv, tax holidays, incentives. Though my sense is that this finance minister would like to get away from as many incentives as possible. But do you believe that to make local industry cost competitive, we are likely to see any tax holidays and incentives coming in? The poll certainly seems to suggest so. 80% believe that we will.
On the direct tax side, because, if we continue down the assumption that GST is a reality, then the era of area-based exemptions, etc., is incompatible with GST, and therefore all those will actually go away. The exemptions, incentives, or any type of encouragement needed for large-scale investment has to then happen on the direct tax side. So I'm assuming that the people, when answering that question, had that in mind, rather than any indirect tax excise type exemptions.
Okay, so Gokul, that would sort of, be along expected lines, right? That we could see, at least as far as the infrastructure, power and capital goods sectors are concerned, we could see the exemptions perhaps continue.
So we did see the introduction of the investment allowance coming in. We did see it becoming a little more liberalized last year. But there are some functional teething issues with the investment allowance scheme. Hopefully the finance minister addresses those in this time. So really that will give a boost to the capital goods industry. It will give a boost to the infrastructure projects because a lot of the capital goods will then be eligible for the investment allowance. We may also see some of the exemptions for power, for example, where there's always been a sunset clause, those getting extended.
The questions that I'm getting on Twitter are asking us, what is it going to mean for the Aam Aadmi? What is it going to mean for the common man? How is it going to change my life? What do you expect, Gokul, as far as the personal income tax side is concerned?
I think people are hoping for three things. One, medical exemption limits, which have not changed for a long time, should go up.
And our sources tell us that is likely.
Well, I hope I'll go with that. The second is, some of the saving and investment limits had gone up last year. I think the finance minister could continue his endeavor to increase and inch these forward every year. And the third is, I think a lot of complaints from a common man is about not getting his little refunds on time. With the amount of computerization which has happened, and I don't think there's a very large pool of capital which is stuck, which is there. I think if we just get some of those teething issues out of the way.
Any change in slabs expected?
I don't suppose we're going to see that happening this year.
Okay, let me get the final wrap-up comments. And Bobby, let me ask you, subsidy rationalization, that's one of the questions that we've asked. LPG specifically, do you expect him to articulate a fairly aggressive subsidy rationalization plan?
I would think that there will be there should be a lot of focus on subsidy rationalization, which should come in the budget, whether it's on LPG, whether it's how the subsidy is going to be delivered. So I do think that that should form a material part of, or an important part of what the budget should
What
contain.
is the headline that you're going to be looking for closely?
I'm going to... So I'd look for the headline of something along the lines of what we started with.
Okay.
It's stimulating growth in a fiscally prudent manner.
Okay, stimulating growth in a fiscally prudent manner. Rajiv, what is the headline that you will be looking out for, and your big expectation on the indirect tax front?
So besides the big headline on GST, which I said is more going to be a statement of intent, one other thing that is always talked about from a corporate world perspective is this adversarial environment and to do with, sort of aggressive campaign on collection. That something has to happen there because besides...
So it hasn't happened. They made that promise in the last budget as well to rein in the tax man, so to speak. It hasn't happened yet?
Oh, well, those promises is what we're expecting to be sort of delivered in a more tangible manner. Yes.
Okay, Gokul, I'm going to wrap this up with you. What is the big headline that you're going to be watching out for?
No GAR.
No GAR. And that will make you happy. That will make you happy. All right, gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us on the CNBC-TV18-BMR pre-budget poll. As you can see, there's a lot that the finance minister has on his plate. Will he be able to revive investor sentiment? Will he be able to give manufacturing a boost? And will he make you and me happy at the end of budget 2015? Those questions will be answered on the 28th of February. But till then, from the entire team, goodbye and many thanks for watching.
CNBC-TV18 and BMR present Pre-Budget Poll.